All right, so we all produce waste. So in daily life, so how we consume materials. So this is a graph I got from internet. So I can just briefly describe, from how we extract the resources to how we, produce and manufacture, and then to how we use the material, and then in between how we transport. And then in the process, in each step, we produce a lot of waste. And unfortunately, so a lot of this waste still go to landfill. So this is a trend. I think I have not been to many sessions in this time yet, but when we talk about sustainability, I know we talk about reduction of energy consumption, green energy, EV, all these things. So I'm sure some of the trends are going down. But for waste, it's going up. So this is just a couple data points, again, from World Bank data. So the waste for all areas, so they did work from, Middle East or, North America, Southeast Asia, and so forth. So every area, the waste is going up significantly, as much as 30% by 2030. So actually the slowest areas, they call Europe and Central Asia. So that's one piece of data. I'm sure you are aware of similar data. Another piece is that, just to put it in perspective, today we produce 2 billion tons of trash every single year. And then this number will go to 3.4 billion by 2050. So this gives, at least to me, that's an urgency. This is a huge amount. So how waste has been evaluated. Actually, there's a thing called, I found this on website again. So I'm not a researcher, I work for a company. So Global Waste Index, they do the ranking. So this is a 2022 ranking. So they rank about 30 countries. I put only the top and the bottom here. So how they rank? By the landfill numbers, the recycle rate, so the amount. So anyhow, so the bottom 10, sounds bottom, but they are the top, so they are the best. So they rank high because they high recycle rate and a really low landfill. So all these majority are North European countries, okay? So 2 are Asia, maybe Singapore was not in this study, but right now listed is South Korea and Japan, okay? So all these top 10, the landfill is only 2%. So not to point finger to anybody, but the worst ranking right now, they have 100% landfill. This is Turkey and Mexico. But those numbers are from 2022. Things could change every year. All right, so I'll say that. So with the worst landfill, the worst ranking. So I want to talk about Korea a little bit. So they rank number 1 in 2022. Why? The highest recycle rate. Just for anybody, so who like to be ranked high for a country or for their own company. So this is an indication, so how you can get ranked high. All right, so now I'm here to talk a little bit about how Envac bring a technology to change the world. So probably never heard about Envac. So this is our challenge. So, but actually Envac has been here for 62 years. So we are the inventor of a thing called automated waste collection system. So I use AWCS for the rest of my talk today. But in Singapore also we call the pneumatic. So you hear PWCS here. So either way, so we have this system since, like I said, 62 years ago, and our first system still running in Sweden. So that's what we are proud of. So we are actually part of Standard. Maybe you don't, you haven't heard about Envac, so some of you probably know Standard, yeah. We are innovators. So we stay this long, probably for a good reason. So this is an innovation technology session, so we are the innovation leader in this segment. Okay, so everybody's familiar with the 17 United Nations Sustainable Goals. So Envac specifically support these 3, from building infrastructure to human inclusion, sustainable living, similar to what the 3 professors just said, and the climate change. All right, so this just like you probably still don't know what Envac does, how do we handle waste. So this example of a before and after, so this is a real example of our system. So this is before, that's after, okay? That's another example, before, after. So this is not, okay. The last example I just show you, that's in China, one hospital, one building. And this one is before in Europe. Same street after. So that's how the system can really transform the waste, how they look. Yeah, so unfortunately, so we still have a lot before here. So in addition to the, to the appearance, as you saw already, so the benefit actually is tremendous. So definitely contribute to sustainability. So the sustainability, we often measure by carbon. So actually, we have a specific research on carbon reduction related to transportation for the trash. So for that particular process, our system can reduce carbon by 90%. So other benefits, I'm not going to read all of them. Hospital, you can imagine the cross-contamination. And, in your subdivision, in Singapore, it's good, but I, work in China 50% of my time right now. So there are, flies, smells. India, I'm covering India too, so we have a lot of trash. So this is definitely a serious issue that needs a solution. All right, so again, this is just not to talk about company, but this is an example that the city can look so much better. We talk about sustainability, has to be livable, beautiful. So when you have our system, it's really look like a park. So I think that's probably an example in everywhere in the world. So we have several thousand systems globally. All right, so now I'm going to share some best practices we observe really for countries. So which country, earlier I showed some waste index. So during our work, so we also saw some countries really doing well. So I would like to share. Okay, so Sweden, look, we are a Swedish company, very proud of Sweden. So why? I think Sweden really set by example. So they ranked, they are one of the United Nations recognized sustainability, environmental focused country, very long, but it's true. So I think based on the waste index, they rank number 2 in 2021. So this is also a real number. So the other things, we all know Sweden is viewed as a country of parks and gardens. I think it's a lot like Singapore, that part. It's very beautiful. And then what I love about that, 85% of the public transportation is used by people use that, so they don't drive as much. So also all the public transportation are not fossil fuel. So I think that's a lot of record. So most importantly, so Sweden really lead on waste management. So they use 99% of the waste. So I think today we not just talk about our technology, it's not. So we talk about waste. So it's really 3 ways: you reduce, you reuse, you recycle. So I think that was a video. I couldn't really put the video on too long. So this is really how their waste 1% in landfill, about 40% recycle, and 25% is food into biomass fuel, food waste. And the energy means 35% convert into heat. You know how Stockholm, the rest of Sweden is very cold in the wintertime. So many years, all the heat is provided from burning trash. So I thought that's very impressive. So those are the practices. So, since I work for this company for several years now, I really am impressed. Yeah. So earlier we talked about livable city. I think Hammarby, Lake City, I think one of the professors showed the Lake City in India. So this probably is one of the earliest eco-city, and I call it really sustainable. Our system has been there for 40-some years. The reason we talk about this one, we get so many people request to visit the city, they want to see the system. So I think just for information one time about our system, we have in here, we have 4 fractions. The reason I mentioned that because many people say, how do you do the trash? Just all together? No, we have fractions depending on your needs. Recyclable, paper, food and general. So, and this place 12,000 apartments and 20,000 tons of waste, just to give you the scale. So the next example is about older city. I know earlier we talked about old people like me, but this is about older city we retrofit, because some cities is beautiful with the time, like a Bergen or Norway's example. They are so crowded, they not allow the trash can to come in, they cannot collect trash, they start to encourage people to burn it. So they have fires and the rats, so really serious issues. So about 10 years ago, they retrofit the entire city with our system. So this is huge, like I think 30,000 apartments and 50,000 tons per day trash. All right, so Asia, so we'll talk about Asia here. So I think what I'm most proud of about the AWCS is in Singapore, not just us. So we have competitors doing very well. So in Asia, just in Singapore, we have 300 to 400 systems. You probably don't know where they are, but they are on the ground. So that's why Singapore, you don't see many trash. So really a benchmark. And then the second best is South Korea. So just in one city of Seoul, there are 70 systems. Korea did something amazing. So anyhow, here's, in case you said, where? I don't know Singapore has systems. So we have a lot of systems. This is just an example. This is just our system. There are other people's systems too. So we have about 100. Okay? I'm not going to go through any of these. This is if you are curious. We also have in hospitals and HDB. Okay? So Singapore, somebody showed Singapore for something else. I'm sorry. Korea has very interesting concept. They do the pay per through on waste. So their ranking, they used to be landfill 80%. If you look at the graph, 80% were landfill. And within a few years, not a few years, but 94, many years, they made a revolution. So their recycle went to 60%. If you go to my early slides about the recycle percentage, they were the highest. That's why they ranked #1 in 2022. And they ranked sustainability #1. So they have this thing going on. So and of course, 70 system does help them. So I just thought those are the concepts you could copy. And China, so I don't cover China. So we do have a lot of city project, hospital project. We have 30 systems now, just to show that things are going up to adopt a better system to have a better environment. So they even copy the Hammarby concept. They call it Yangtze Hammarby. So actually these companies, these developers, not really they just use our system. They win like a 5 award by doing that. Yeah. So Malaysia actually has a lot of AWCS in Malaysia. Actually, we are a small player, so somebody else has a lot of system there. So yeah, I think it's really great to see that. India is on the growth, and the best project we have is in GIFT. So those people who know India or grew up there, so GIFT is one of the best examples. That example not only have our system, they have the integrated process from beginning to finish. Like they have the kitchen waste treatment right there, and then later they will have incineration on the side. So very super impressive. I think personally that's the next generation of eco-city. Yeah. So anyhow, so these are beautiful, but unfortunately that's what we face in many places. The trash everywhere has issues. So I guess I always use this opportunity to call to action. So we got to change this. So my call to action is that we have to work together. It's not about our system, it's about how we can work together to really first to reduce. Like the Korea system, you pay and then they reduce. And then you recycle and then you reuse. So I think I put some examples, so we and other players and the government, community, we all care together. I think we can make this happen. So last slide saying that every time, everything starts with me. I think I have been very passionate about this business, so they quoted me last year when I spoke for Fortune magazine. So I mean what I said, so I'm going to just read it. I said, reducing waste production is an urgent need as fast urbanization continues, especially in China. Environmental actions and sustainability protocols cannot always be simply evaluated with a basic return on investment. It should be coupled with a social responsibility from all parties. So I thought to share that quote, since that's what I believe in. And like I said, hopefully we start with me today. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me here today. So wearing our Microsoft hat, and today's discussion is going to be on this, right? A very pertinent topic, and a topic that, cuts across almost everybody's lives in the room today, right? Technology, right? But let me just set the stage, right? I mean, what is a smart city, right? This is our definition of a smart city, where digital technologies are meant to enrich the lives of citizens, but also improve infrastructure, modernize government services, right? And today we see technology being embedded in almost every tech stack that we have, right, in the world today, and we're so reliant on technology and very interconnected societies we live in, right? And increasingly, we are seeing governments tapping on new technology, and the buzzword today is all about generative AI. And I'll cover on that in the later slides for today. So what drives smart cities, right? I mean, the fundamental premise for driving for smart cities is because we want better lives, right? We want to ensure that we are able to cater to the needs of the citizens who are living in the country, but also at the same time delivering economic growth, right? So the premise of smart cities has always been centered upon the triple paradigm of improving quality of life, economic growth, and now the balancing of environmental sustainability, right? So this is the triple paradigm of what's driving smarter cities today, right? As industries, societies mature, cities grow, there's an increased need for better quality of life, right? We want cleaner air, we want faster access to resources, we want to get from point A to B faster, and we want to use that or get to that point using data in this sense, right? So that need has driven cities to be a bit more smarter, more connected, and more tech-driven and tech-embedded, right? So that's the first premise. The second premise has always been economic growth, right? Why do cities become smarter? They want to grow economically. They want to be a financial hub. They want to be a hub for players, industry stakeholders to come together, concord new ideas, and create more value, right? So that's the second premise. And with that, you could also see that there's an environmental footprint that comes out with cities being more smarter, all right? And this is the third trend we are seeing today, that a lot of cities today are starting to prioritize sustainability, right? As cities grow smarter, societies age, and new health issues crop up, governments realize that it's important to also use sustainable technology to enable societies to thrive, right? So today we see a lot of use cases on where technology has been used to provide air quality information, flash flood signals, for example, in Singapore, and many more, right? And if you look at the broader paradigm, I think the earlier speaker covered about waste. There's so many use cases where government agencies are using technology and AI to enable or understand statistics around waste generation and the channeling of waste, right? These are just some of the examples I can share, all right? And what underpins a smart city? Data, right? Everything today has to do with data. We want better data, we want cleaner data, and we want data faster, all right? And behind the data that's been shifted around sits data centers, right? And specifically cloud service providers, right? And that's where data centers come into a smart city, right? And today, a lot of that talk has been centered around the theme of generative AI and how AI is driving cities to be smarter. So this is just a perspective of where our cloud regions are globally, right? If you look at Microsoft, we've got data centers in almost every major city, right? When you have data centers in those cities, you ensure that these data centers have to operate in a sustainable manner, right? Data centers are known to be perceived energy guzzlers and also consume a lot of water, right? So whenever we have data centers, especially AI-powered data centers, we need to ensure that we build out responsibly, and we also integrate data centers into the broader societies and communities in the cities that we set up shop in, all right? So our approach to sustainable AI and how AI can actually benefit society is threefold, right? We want to ensure that AI is as energy efficient as possible, right? What do we mean by that, right? Essentially doing more with less, right? How do we get a bang for the buck, which means, for X amount of energy, this is the amount of compute power, you get it, and this is the type of data that is available to you. The second use that is very intrinsically linked with cities is around water and energy, right? How do we minimize or offset the impact of energy and water use in our data centers, right? Because cities are reliant on energy, cities are also reliant on water. So how do we balance that paradigm? And lastly, how do we ensure that we also advance lower carbon material, right? Many times when you talk about smart cities, it's not just about the infrastructure. It's not just about the operational footprint, but it's also about the embodied footprint, right? And this is where the concept of embodied carbon comes in, right? So how do we leverage that concept, and how do we open up supply chains in cities to enable what we call low carbon supply chains? So this is our full stack approach to sustainable AI, wherever we go in every city that we operate in. All right, so what do we mean by low carbon materials? All right, for example, we look at green building materials, all right, unconventional building materials that have a low carbon footprint. right? For example, we just commissioned a data center in Virginia, in America, which was essentially being built out with CLT, which is cross-laminated timber, right? So moving away from concrete to CLT and other types of innovative engineered timber, and also enabling supply chains to decarbonize, right? So how do we unlock more clean, renewable energy in the supply chains of the cities that we operate in? All right. Every time we build a data center, we ensure that we are able to unlock clean energy in that specific smart city that we are in. All right. And also using our purchasing power. Right. Data centers need huge amount of energy, need huge amounts of water in certain instances. Operating at scale also ensures that we are able to buy power and energy at scale. Right. So that could also signal unintended positive effects in the supply chains of the cities that we have built our data centers in, right? So this is just some pictures on how we are doing it, all right? So using wood, for instance, as a replacement for concrete in these cities can reduce embodied carbon by up to 65%, all right? This has also enabled us to save close to about 90,000 tons of emissions so far, right? So when we reduce our emissions, we also reduce the emissions of the cities we are in, right? So the carbon budget of the city also goes down correspondingly, all right? And with our ambitions that we have set, right, we have an ambition of being carbon negative by 2030, and we also want to use 100% carbon-free electricity. We are also able to unlock supply chains for carbon-free electricity in the cities we operate in. So there are definite spillover effects, and that is the beauty of data centers, right, in some way, right? Data centers have unlocked unconventional sources of clean power. Today, we are talking about nuclear, right? 2 or 3 years ago, the nuclear conversation was not there. But today, nuclear energy represents one of the cleanest forms of energy in the world, right? Carbon-free. And the strong possibility of small, medium reactors being set up within cities, right? I think we've grown to the idea. Safety is always a concern, but there's an increasing openness and willingness and understanding that other forms of conventional energy sources will need to be set up in the countries that we operate in. All right, so this is how we do it. How do we optimize and balance resource needs with technology, right? Carbon-free electricity is one of it. A lot of our data centers use air for cooling, all right? Heat is a problem in data centers, so we need to remove heat so that the chips and the servers operate at efficiency, right? So where not possible, all right, we need to use water. Singapore is one example in the tropics. So we can't use air to cool our data centers. We still need to leverage on water. All right. We also look at things like carbon removal. How can we collaborate with, CD planners to explore carbon removal projects, right? Things like direct air capture are things of interest to us, and that's how we create new supply chains in the cities that we operate in. And lastly, about efficiency and circular innovation, right? Waste is a concern, right? Every time data centers are created, there's a huge footprint of construction waste and also operational waste, right? Server lifespans are about 5 to 6 years. So how do you create a value chain within cities to enable servers to be refurbished, repaired, and have their spare parts harvested and channeled back into the economy, right? So I'm also proud to say that we have a circular center in Singapore, all right? That's probably our first in the region where end-of-life servers are actually harvested, minerals of value are extracted, and then we sell it on to our OEMs, all right? So we in fact create those sort of value chains in the cities that we operate in. All right, so this is how ideal data center operation should look like. And this is our blueprint towards sustainable operations in the cities that we live in, or rather operate in, all right? Using water-free technologies such as liquid cooling and cold plating, all right? So how do we use innovative liquids that can bring water or liquid as close as to the chip as possible to remove heat, right? Especially with AI compute, right? You need that. And a lot of times when we build out data centers, we also ensure that the data center can be integrated with the broader community, right? So we've done pioneering projects in Europe, for example, in Rotterdam, we have actually integrated the forestry and greenery with our data centers, right? So the data center does not stand out as a concrete block, but rather something that is integrated with the nature and with the broader community. All right, and one of the things that we're also trying to do as much as possible, it's not viable in Asia Pacific, but in Europe, what we call it as channeling waste heat to district cooling systems, right? So the waste heat that is generated from data centers can be used by households once they are channeled to them through district cooling, right? So we have done that in several parts of Europe, including Denmark, Sweden, and Finland. We're also exploring some use cases in Asia Pacific, especially in Australia and New Zealand. All right, so improving the energy efficiency of AI requires three aspects, all right? Silica innovation, right? Silica is essentially what goes behind your chip, right? How can we make our chips and servers more effective? How can we also optimize AI and ensure that there's a broader awareness of carbon as a concept, right? That's very important, right? AI has its footprint. How do we also understand that footprint? That's very important. And also engaging with stakeholders, customers. Customers are our consumers, the people who use our services, not just businesses, but data users like you guys, right? How do we engage with them to understand what is needed and creating more awareness on the carbon footprint associated with AI? All right, so this is some of the things we are doing at a silica level and at a chip level, trying to understand how we can enhance the efficiency of the chips that we use so that they consume less electricity or energy. And also, how do we also ensure that, when our data centers are operating, we are also able to minimize redundancy, idle times, and, how do we strategically position data centers, right? AI data centers, especially training, the ones for training, the ones for inference, right? How can we also strategically place them across the geographies that we operate in? All right, so I just want to sort of also end off with this sort of concept on right-sizing AI, right, for quality, efficiency, and sustainability, right? We want to have AI models that can be replicated or used for larger use cases, which means it's not limited to certain parts of the community, right? We want large language models that can be infused in various tech stacks that can be present, right? So that's what we're trying to do, right? Large language models, we acknowledge, can be and are more resource intensive, but they have broader general application purposes, right? So as an organization, we are committed to do that, but understanding and acknowledging that the resource constraints will place a burden on cities, we are also taking the right steps needed to mitigate those effects. All right, so the use cases for AI are tremendous. I mean, you've seen many of these being shared. I don't want to go into specific examples, but AI has intersections in every element of a city, right? Be it, giving inputs on air pollution levels or air pollutant content in the atmosphere, being sort of also being integrated into the traffic system, right? And today, a lot of cities, you see the green wave, which means, there's not peak hour traffic, you're able to zoom past different traffic lights. And a lot of that is enabled through generative AI, right? And that optimizes efficiency and goes back to the premise of improving lives and, ensuring that, the community is able to move from one place to another in a much faster time, right? So AI has many intersections in community, and it will be a crucial element of almost every major city in time to come. And that's the only closing thought I wanted to leave you with. And thank you very much. Yeah, I know I'm out of time. Yeah.